The fire-making duel. Once a rare necessity meant to solve the purple rock conundrum and handle the first ever one-on-one tie, has now become a mainstay on Survivor, serving as a crucial part of every season and helping shape the endgame and the eventual winner. In Survivor, fire represents your life, and if you can't make it, then you might find yourself getting your torch snuffed and crying your way to the jury. Today, we are going to be looking at the entire history of fire-making duels so far, and look at how they have changed over the seasons and how they have changed the actual game period. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing to this channel. This video was made possible by the patrons on my Patreon, and every month they vote on what videos I should make, like this one. Consider joining them to get videos early and to pick what videos I make. Now on to the complete history of the fire-making duel in Survivor.
Are you both ready?
You ready?
Ready as it will ever be. And begin.
Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this part, but there have been fire-making challenges that are not duels. These took place in seasons 1, 3, 4, 6, and 17, with that one in season 17 being the closest to what we will be discussing today, where Susie pulled out that surprising win. This challenge is officially called Fast Fire, but it is really only the predecessor to the fire-making duel. Now, the origins of this duel truly begin in season 10, Survivor Palau, as the Oolong tribe loses immunity after immunity after immunity to the point where they get down to only 2 members and frankly cannot vote each other out anymore. If you don't know about this, watch my video called The Worst Tribe in Survivor History. It is terrible. Terrible meaning the tribe, not the video. So anyways, Stephanie and Bobby John, they're deadlocked in a 1-to-1 tie because of course they can't vote for themselves. The show has to go through uncharted waters. When Stephanie and Bobby John leave that final immunity challenge where they predictably lose again, Jeff gives no hints as to what they will be doing to solve this conundrum.
Because there are only 2 of you, there'll be no vote. There will be an individual immunity challenge. Loser goes home.
So of course, neither player can really prepare for what's to come, which is why at Tribal Council, when Jeff reveals the tiebreaker, the new one, the one that we've never seen before, Stephanie thinks she is a dead woman walking because Bobby John is always making fire at camp and he's kind of the best at it.
It is the key to survival, the ability to make fire.
So both players are given matches, kindling, and coconut husk. Basically, anyone who makes a fire that can light their torch first wins. And considering how low these torches are and how easy it is to light one, it is unsurprising when this challenge takes very little time to complete, but we do get our first ever winner of a fire-making duel.
Steph has a big flame. Steph's torch is lit. Just like that, this challenge is over. Steph wins immunity.
Our next fire-making duel happens this season at the Final Four when a tie vote occurs between Ian and Jen. The last time there was a tie at the Final Four in Survivor, it was in season 4 when a rock draw infamously happened and caused players to be haunted and scared to ever revisit it ever since. However, this seems to be a resolved issue as Survivor decides to make the fire-making duel the new Final Four tiebreaker, and frankly, it is way more fair than what they used to do in regards to just the Final Four. And from here on out, this duel will only be taking place at the Final Four. Some changes are made this time, as no longer does each player have to make a fire to light a torch, but now they have to make a fire that burns through a rope instead. Hopefully this makes the challenge last a little longer, add some drama, stuff like that. It should be much better. So who wins?
And there it is. Ian stays in this game.
We now jump 2 seasons later to Survivor Exile Island, where once again at the Final Four there is a tie vote between Suri and Danielle. Once again an evolution occurs with the actual duel and how it works. While they still have coconut husk, kindling, and a rope to burn through, they are no longer given matches. Now it is even more skill based, as they are required to use a flint and a knife to start a fire. So how does this episode end?
Survivors ready? Begin.
It ends on a cliffhanger. Let me tell you, as someone who watched this live when it happened, that was a crazy way to leave the fan base for a week, as pretty much everyone was rooting for Terry or Suri in this season. And to see Suri's life hanging in the balance for a whole week, it was too much. The finale starts with a long 10-minute recap of the season, the title sequence, and then finally, the showdown we all waited a week to see, which ends with...
Rope's on fire. Suri, you gotta hurry. Danielle, wins the challenge.
We only have to jump one season to find our next fire-making duel in Season 13, Survivor Cook Islands. This time we see Becky and Sundra face off in an epic fire-making duel that will see the triumphant victor take their rightful spot at Final Tribal Council. That's right, this is the first time the player who wins the duel will be going to Final Tribal, because this season is the first season where 3 people will be at Final Tribal Council, so the stakes are even higher than normal. Now, using the usual materials that we just saw in Season 12, what happens next?
Survivors ready? Begin. All right, stop right where you're at. We're gonna go to matches.
They can't get anything going after an entire hour. Wow. We literally see the jury bored out of their minds, and even Jeff is like, come on. Well, now that they have matches, surely this competition will heat up and be a close race to the finish, right?
After 38 days out here, you should both know how to make fire.
I'm out.
And Sundra is out of matches.
Or maybe not. Frankly, this is the worst duel we have seen so far, and spoiler alert, while there is another contender for the crown, this one takes the cake for me personally. With Sundra out of matches, predictably, Becky wins.
That's gonna do it.
After the epic showdown in Season 13, Survivor doesn't see itself another showdown until Season 17, Survivor Gabon, where the tie vote at Final Four comes down to Maddie and Bob, the young buck versus the old physics teacher. A win is truly on the line here, as it feels like whoever pulls this off can actually win the entire game. That's right, no one who's won a duel so far has also won this season, but here it really feels like that could happen. So, what happens next?
Maddie's still struggling. Bob has burned through the rope. Bob has won this challenge.
That's right, Bob wins the duel and then wins the season. In what is by far the biggest gap ever, Survivor doesn't have a single fire-making duel until Season 30. Survivor Worlds Apart. That's right, 13 whole seasons later. Wow. The showdown is between Rodney and Carolyn, though it doesn't seem like either could win the entire game if they win the duel, at least in my opinion. Either way, they compete, and this is the second biggest mess of any fire-making duel, only rivaled by Becky and Sundra, because never has anyone ever done what we're about to see.
Flint broke. I get half a
Here you go.
flint.
I got a backup for you, Rodney, if you need it.
Can I get another one?
Yeah? It's brand new.
Jeff, can I get that other one?
Yep. "38 days in the jungle with fire, your most basic need."
Thank you.
Despite all of that, the not great duel finally heats up at the end, and it does become a close race, and it is pretty exciting, which concludes with...
Yes! There it is!
Yes!
Carolyn will survive, make it to the final 3.
The next duel is only a mere 2 seasons later in Survivor Kaoh Rong. It is a head-to-head battle of Sydney versus Aubrey. Now, if you're watching this season and you don't know the result, you may be led to believe that Aubrey's $1 million win is on the line here, but the same could be said for Sydney as well. So this is an important one, and who wins it?
This may be as far as it goes for Sydney.
There it is. Aubrey survives Tribal Council.
At this point, I want to take a step back and reflect upon the past duels we have seen, because what's about to happen is going to change everything. So far, the women have won 5 duels in total and the men have won 2. In the specific men versus women scenarios, the women lead 2-1. This matters because that is all about to change drastically. We move on to Season 35, Survivor Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers, where Survivor has decided to completely change how the Final Four works, as Chrissy wins the Final Four immunity, and all of a sudden a secret advantage that she gets to read in private comes up, and we've never seen this before. So when she goes and reads it, it says,
"Tonight, you are in charge and will cast the only vote. You will choose one person to sit... You will choose one person to sit next to you at the final tribal council, forcing the 2 remaining players to earn their way to the end by battling it out in a fire-making challenge.
So now, no longer do fire-making duels happen when there is a tie vote at Final Four. No. Instead, they happen at every single Final Four from here on out. However, the players of Season 35 didn't know about this twist ahead of time, so they planned on a Final Four vote still happening. While this does seem unfair to the players, and it really is, this is not the first time, nor is it the last time, Survivor will have a surprise twist for the players and the audiences. These date all the way back to Season 3 and still happen to this day, but here it affects the results of this season drastically, as Jeff sells this to the players and the audience as earning a spot in the Final 3. Unlike those who get to the Final 3 through pure social gameplay, it isn't a great look, but what is worse is that he says this is the first time anyone has earned their final spot this way.
First time ever, the final spot will be earned by a fire-making showdown.
Which is wholly inaccurate, as we just witnessed every player since Season 13 in this video earn their spot in a fire-making duel. Regardless of that factually incorrect statement, this duel is truly a battle to win this season. Devin versus Ben. Whoever wins this could actually win the season just like Bob did. So what happens?
Will it be enough? Yes! Ben wins the fire showdown and earns the final seat at Tribal Council.
Ben also does go on to win the season, and that is now the second player to do so. The next fire-making duel takes place in Season 36, Survivor Ghost Island, and from here on out, the players are wholly aware about this twist and can anticipate it with their moves. Dominic wins immunity and knows that to secure his win this season, he needs Wendell out. He needs Wendell to lose the duel. Laurel, despite everything she says this season, actually says something here that's super correct. She tells Dom exactly what he needs to do to make this happen, because Laurel nor Angela are probably his best bet to get rid of Wendell.
If you take him out, you win $1 million.
What I find very interesting here is that this season is based on past bad plays by survivors, and Wendell wants to sit on the right, aka our left, for the duel because historically the winner of the duel has always sat there. When he brought this up, I was like, wait, is Wendell onto something I didn't notice? So I went back, checked all the previous duels, and sure enough, he is right, but only most of the time. In every duel, the winner sits on the left, except for seasons 13 and 32, where Becky and Aubrey both sat on the right. But regardless, Angela doesn't care about where she sits, so she swaps seats with him, and what happens?
And there it is. Wendell will join Laurel and Dominic at the final 3.
And just like Ben and Bob before him, Wendell wins the season 2. Now for Season 37, Survivor David versus Goliath, where Nick wins immunity and decides that if he were to sit next to Mike and Kara at the final tribal council, he's pretty sure he would lose to them both, so he needs one of them gone. And he figures, of course, I'll just have them both make fire, that way one of them does go home. So what happens?
Kara continues to try. It won't matter. Mike does it. Mike makes fire. Wow.
And I did notice how Mike was sitting on our left, like the majority of the winners. For the next duel, we go to Season 38, Survivor Edge of Extinction. Here we see Chris having been voted out third this season, but he won the Final Edge Challenge, a twist for the season where he gets to return to the game at the Final 6. He really needs to make every moment count in the game, and he does secure himself a spot at Final Tribal by winning the Final 4 Immunity Challenge. But seeing how the big man on campus is Devin, he knows that he has to do what Dominic failed to do on Ghost Island and make a risky move.
Came into this game wanting to have no regrets. So tonight, I am offering up my immunity necklace, giving it to Julie, and I will be making fire against Rick Devins tonight.
Wow, he is giving up a guaranteed final tribal council spot, but to be fair, his goal is to win the game, and anyone against Devins at final tribal will lose. So since the wind is so bad at tribal for the first time ever, the duel takes place in the voting booth. And with Chris sitting on our left and Devins on the right, what happens next?
It's over. Chris has earned his way into the final 3.
And this move actually secures Chris the win for the season as well. Moving on to Season 39, Survivor Island of the Idols, Nora wins immunity, but she is a goat at Final Tribal. She's not going to win. Right now, it really seems like it's Tommy or Lauren's game to win, just based on who you ask. But Nora, strangely enough, keeps Tommy safe, and she tells Lauren and Dean that, hey, you guys are going to be making fire. And frankly, the way these two react at camp makes it seem like the Becky and Sandra debacle may be resurrecting itself.
I haven't been made fire the whole time I've been here.
I hope she thinks I'm super good at it because I've never made fire in my life.
Me out.
At Tribal Council, Lauren is sitting on her left and Dean on her right. History has shown that Lauren is the favorite to win just based on that. So what happens?
It's right there.
There it is. Dean has done it.
Dean pulls a surprise out of his hat by defying the odds of winning the duel. Our next fire-making showdown is for all the marbles in season 40. Survivor winners at war. Natalie Anderson returns from the edge Chris Underwood style and wins Final Four immunity. She finds herself in a similar predicament as well, since Tony seems like the runaway winner, but a fire-making duel where she wins could make the difference. So what does she decide?
At this point, I feel like when I won the challenge today and you put this immunity necklace around my neck, and I knew that I had done enough and felt satisfied to leave the fire making to somebody else tonight.
She makes the wrong call, and yes, season 38 had already aired before these players went out to Fiji, so they saw what happened with Chris. Anyways, the showdown between Sarah and Tony happens. They have had a long history since season 28, and with Sarah sitting on her left and Tony on her right, who wins?
Sarah.
And Tony does go on to win the game for the second time in Survivor history. This is by far the best duel to date due to the emotional weight it carries as seen by the aftermath of what happens. It does take watching seasons 28 and 40 to fully feel it, but it is totally worth it. After that epic season, many wondered if that would be the end of fire duels, since season 41 and beyond is pitched as a new era of Survivor. But to even ask that question is just silly when looking at the long history of Jeff in interviews saying that people need to learn how to make fire before coming on the show. I can personally find evidence going as far back as season 12, but I'm sure he preached it well before that. The point is that none of us should expect this to ever leave the game, as even in the quote unquote new era of Survivor where we drop the 4 and keep the 1, fire making at Final Four is still present. That's right, Survivor 41. And this time, Xander foolishly does not take Erica on himself. Nothing was learned from Chris and Natalie before him, because despite her being the biggest target on the board, he instead sends Deshawn and Heather to fire, people he would have a much better chance against at the final 3. Deshawn all season has talked about how he sucks at fire, and even like way back in episode 2 is like, yeah, me and my family, we took 13 hours to build a fire in a backyard, and that was rough. Erica has proven multiple times that she can do it, even being on Exile Island by herself, having to do it for 2 days straight. And we pretty much don't know anything about Heather except that she loses pretty much any challenge she competes in. So in the close fire-making duel between two people who don't really know what they're doing, Heather takes the early lead.
Heather's got a great fire. Deshawn is trying to get back in this. Heather is getting closer and closer to the final 3.
However, Heather's fire doesn't really hold up, and Deshawn smothers the little fire he did get going because he wasn't letting air come in underneath, but then it happens. Both players get their fire going, and it becomes a neck-and-neck race until the end, when who pulls out the victory? While Sarah and Tony's fire-making duel was much more emotional, this one is the closest no contest. And that is where we stand today as of the time of this video. Will there be more duels? Of course, but as of now, here are the statistics that you might find interesting. Out of the 14 duels so far, 5 of them were won by the eventual winners of the season, aka 36%. Out of the 8 duels that took place between men and women, despite that early lead women held after season 32, it has dwindled and men have won 6 of the duels, aka 75%. In total, a man has won 9 duels and a woman has won 5 duels. So what do you think about the fire-making duel? Should it stay around forever? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in, and I want to give an even bigger thanks to the patrons as they made this video happen, and it was made at their request. Once again, thanks for watching.